Sentient listeners and consumers of food, has it ever occurred to you that despite the great power of government and its involvement in the food supply, that there still exists a black market for food? You'll see that cash transactions regularly occur when purchasing food, in a way where the government doesn't even know the transaction took place, and, none of the protections from the government should the transaction go wrong. Now, some of you might question, is this really a big deal? Why would a political party care about this? And to any such critics, I would say that the government should really get a probe for your ass. Although, I would also recommend this for people who agree with me. We'll see in this presentation how we can have biological health monitors and a blockchain for food that could spur on a deeper understanding of personalized nutrition for all creatures, and giving them a more capable and more dignified existence in our society, which will be envied by all of the nations, flocks, ganders, murders. On this topic of other animals, which are typically ignored by governments, as an aside, let's consider as well how their nutrition is also ignored. Many of you might have heard of Jean Brillat-Savarin, who wrote, for instance, the line, "Tell me what you eat, and I will tell you what you are." But in this work from 1848, he also discusses the sense of taste. We were brought up in the sweet belief that of all creatures that walk, swim, crawl, or fly, man has the most perfect sense of taste. This faith is in danger of being shaken. Dr. Gall, founded on I do not know what inspections, claims that there are animals in which the taste apparatus is more developed and hence more perfect than that of man. This doctrine is unhealthy and smacks of heresy. Man, of divine right, king of all nature, and for the benefit of whom the earth has been covered and populated, must necessarily be provided with an organ which can put him in touch with all that is sapid in his subjects. Animals are limited in their tastes. Some live only on plants, others eat only flesh, others feed exclusively on seeds. None of them knows the compound flavors. Keep in mind this thought of eating anything because it's your God-given right as a superior being. This is being written 16 years before the invention of pasteurization in Europe. And even as late as 1859, we see Charles Darwin releasing a book on the origin of species by means of natural selection, or the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life. So, eating cows and Pop-Tarts doesn't cement the superiority of the human race, because, there are still E. coli in food that can kill us. And so I guess, in this battle for natural selection, less of a pyramid hierarchy and more of a cycle, like scissors, paper, rock. So for us to make ourselves immune from predation, we can't just keep climbing this ladder. We're biologically limited how much can fit in this, one being. And so, how do we make ourselves immune then? We need extra help from something non-biological, like, government-funded robots to inspect our butt. Getting on this topic of technology, I should clarify that the main building blocks of this plan are blockchains and ubiquitous sensing, especially RGB sensors, or spy cameras, as you might affectionately know them. But blockchains and more generally proofs of provenance, they're not entirely new. Going into this topic, I had the hypothesis that blockchains would solve everything. But unfortunately, it's not quite true. There have been some existing scenarios where they're tracking the provenance of horse meat, for instance. I don't know if it's meat, but they're tracking the provenance of the horses. They do end up getting killed, spoiler alert. So in recent years, the US government has been paying people $1,000 to adopt a wild horse that's already been caught by the government. And the thing is, after these people adopted the horses, they would have it for some time limit, and as soon as that was up, they would just auction off the horses at the slaughter yard. And the government could find out about this, and these people were still allowed to adopt more horses. And there were tabs being kept, how many horses does this person have? Limits around that. But it's something that you would think could be solvable with a blockchain. When the horse is born, maybe you have to register hair strands to the government, whoever, and then buyers would know: am I buying a farmed horse, or am I buying this wild horse that, this guy's scamming the government and selling off the wild horse. But it turns out, though, such determination, is this a wild horse? It was already possible. The government had already branded the horses with a government seal, like they would put on the side of like a warship or a fighter jet, whatever. So yeah, the buyers didn't care, and the government didn't really care either, because if it had kept possession of this wild horse over its lifetime, it would have cost $24,000 to keep it alive and everything. Versus like here, if they can offload the horse for $1,000, then they don't mind being taken for a ride. So we see in this scenario, the buyers didn't really care that they were getting wild horse meat. But what if consumers were aware that they were buying wild horse meat instead of farmed horse meat or dog meat, whatever? So maybe the provenance tracking just wasn't going far enough. But how far could it go? Imagine if we had like spy satellites looking over the pastures. How big is this pasture? How healthy is it? And how much produce could be grown? And then when the farmer reports their sales onto the blockchain, then when it gets sold to the next person, that's still tracked on the blockchain. Like they wash the produce or feed it to something else, and then it keeps. It stays on the blockchain the whole way until it gets onto the supermarket shelves. And so like when you buy these strawberries, what if someone's been putting the needles in the strawberries? Then all the places, all the geographical places that these strawberries had in common, besides just the Earth or elsewhere. Having the satellite imagery also gives consumers more power in verifying ethical claims. Like the chickens that are apparently raised free range, for instance. That's a very loose definition, free range. Here, what if consumers could see, like, here are the geographical coordinates, here was the chicken farm, and we have satellite surveillance pictures of just how dense the chickens are. And as well, I should clarify that, after the consumers purchase this food from the supermarket or whatever, we can continue on the blockchain from that point still. If supermarkets would finally give consumers an API to access their own purchase history, then, yeah, like, you could know exactly all the foods you bought and what's in your pantry right now. And just as an aside, an API, I'm talking about an application programming interface. Basically, if you think about like the World Wide Web, of like HTML in your browser, sites that look nice, whatever. Then in parallel to that, besides you with like let's just say that you have like human eyes and you're looking at the HTML page. What if robots want to access the same page, but it's very much just the data? Like, give me my purchase history, and it's just, well, here's this item, that item. It has like the price, some sort of like universal code. Like I think supermarkets use SKU, stock keeping unit, and that's shared across all stores. So yeah, you can see exactly what you bought. And then it can sync with your biological sensors, biological sensors that do business with children, because everybody deserves the right to have their health analyzed and optimized. But anyway, then it gets into, like through your body, and, you can see, you can measure the effects of like how healthy is this person, and how healthy is their gut as well. It brings me to my point, where in Stanford, some researchers have developed like a prototype toilet that has cameras in it, and it recognizes you by your butthole, and it analyzes the material that you've deposited, and sense your internal health. Having this ubiquitous sensing apparatus would allow us, so much more insight into our health, into the food lineage, any potential wastage. And because, at the moment, like, how do we analyze food's biological effect on us? It's pretty much just counting calories, even though, you have like all the different nutrient deficiencies and everything. So yeah, this would, as I said, optimize our existence. And we can think as well about applying ubiquitous sensing for our pets, for other animals. Like having a Fitbit-like thing for dogs, maybe for cats as well. Track them by GPS. Maybe it could sense, like, is this cat about to kill another animal? And we have we electrocute the cat. I should mention as well some tangential benefits of this in regards to the spy satellites, for instance. That's expensive, but there have been other ideas floating around about, for instance, an animal currency, where basically you say that as long as this animal continues to exist, this person's going to get paid for looking after it. But then, I guess it's like complicated. We're talking like elephants and giraffes or whatever, endangered animals that we care about. But then, who do you pay for keeping the elephant alive? And then as well, are we, if we're just optimizing for lifespan, then who knows what if that may backfire? I mean, lemmings, for instance, jumping off cliffs. Evolution has kept them alive. There must be some benefit to jumping off the cliff. Don't jump it anyway. And then we can think about as well cameras watching over jungles, and there was a scheme where for the credits, the carbon credits, they're using ubiquitous sensors to see, like, is this forest still alive? Does it still count as a carbon credit? So yeah, it's not entirely crazy to imagine a future where robots care about all living things and optimize our existence. But of course, or perhaps the most practical way of seeing this future arise is to support the political party who's pitching it. Please like and subscribe, and keep in mind as well the New South Wales election coming up in 2023.